What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Monday, September 8th, 2025, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now it is 13:23 Eastern Time here in the United States, and I wanted to update you guys on the situation with Venezuela and also with Ukraine and the Middle East. So the leader of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, said last night that if the U.S. attacks, then Venezuela will respond. We will enter into a total war and armed struggle against the United States. We are prepared to take American lives if necessary. Wow. So that's what Maduro said yesterday. And also yesterday, Trump talked about the situation in Venezuela. He was asked by a reporter if he was considering attacking cartels inside of Venezuela. He simply responded by saying, "You're gonna find out." Okay, and that's what he did right before he bombed Iran. And we're also hearing that Venezuela is going to be deploying 25,000 troops in the near future to coastal and border regions. And a U.S. Navy Sikorsky Seahawk MH-60R, a multi-mission helicopter assigned to the Magicians of Helicopter Maritime Strike Squadron 35, likely attached to the USS Lake Erie or another naval vessel currently deployed to the southern Caribbean, was spotted a short while ago 170 miles off the coast of Venezuela. So here's a flight tracker showing this U.S. Navy Sikorsky Seahawk right off the coast of Caracas, 170 miles to the north. Okay, so this is extremely concerning. This is a helicopter assigned to the Helicopter Maritime Strike Squadron 35. Okay, very serious situation. And this morning we had a 268 character nuclear code transmitted by U.S. nuclear forces. 268 characters is one of the longest ever nuclear codes. Typically, they're only 30 characters long. When you hear those massive nuclear codes, it means something is about to go down. And over the last couple of days, we've been hearing back-to-back nuclear codes every night, starting around 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. Eastern Time. So something is definitely brewing behind the scenes. We also have a Cobra Ball up in the air over North Dakota. A Cobra Ball is a special plane used by the U.S. military to track the trajectory of ballistic missiles. They usually deploy these when a ballistic missile test is about to happen. And we also have a Combat Sentinel plane airborne over the southern Rockies near the Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah Four Corners border area. And this is a high priority reconnaissance plane. There's only 2 of them in the U.S. Air Force, and they send intelligence directly to the President and the Joint Chiefs. So we have the highest priority recon plane airborne. We have a missile detecting plane airborne. We also have a B-52 nuclear bomber airborne right now, and a sub hunter off the coast of Florida, again off the coast of Orlando. And last night and this morning we had a U.S. reconnaissance plane do this massive patrol up to the Finnish Arctic and down through the Baltics and Poland and around Kaliningrad. And here we have some footage of the U.S. military, or actually U.S. Marines, doing some training exercises in Puerto Rico. We know that the U.S. Defense Secretary has just arrived in Puerto Rico along with Dan Kane, the U.S. Chief of Staff, the top general, okay? So we have the top general and the defense secretary, or actually the Secretary of War, now as it's called, in Puerto Rico observing these exercises. And we do know that the Trump administration moved, or they will be moving by the end of this week, 10 F-35s to Puerto Rico. And what's interesting about these F-35s is they're the same ones that were used in the strikes against Iran, okay? So here we have footage of an AV-8 Harrier with the U.S. Marine Corps flying over Puerto Rico. Check this out. So that's the Marine Corps maritime strike aircraft. It's a fighter jet. It's being replaced by the F-35 actually. And here we have this Predator drone with Hellfire missiles spotted in Puerto Rico. Here we have some footage of amphibious landing exercises taking place. Check it out. So this big boat here can actually carry heavy equipment. It can carry troops. Okay, it's an amphibious landing ship or airboat, whatever you want to call it. This is totally insane, guys. The fact that they're actually training with these means that they're considering doing beach landings in Venezuela. And this update was sponsored by EMP Shield. Guys, EMP Shield has created a special discount just for you, the listeners of the NYPrepper channel. If you go to empshield.com and use the promo code NYPrepper, you can get 15% off your entire order. And why do you need an EMP Shield? Well, this is a special device to protect your vehicle, your RV, your solar generators, your radios from an electromagnetic pulse, which could be caused by a solar flare or potentially a rogue country like North Korea detonating an electromagnetic pulse weapon over the United States that's mounted onto a satellite. So protect your vehicles, protect your RV, protect your radios, protect your generators with an EMP Shield. Use my promo code NYPrepper to get 15% off. Installation is super simple. This is a veteran-owned business, 100% American-made, and the EMP Shields have been tested by the military, okay? And free shipping is included to the entire continental United States. And the link and the promo code are in the description below this video. And millions of people across the UK received an emergency alert on their phone as part of a test of the British emergency alert system across their entire country. The 10-second alert was tested by the government for the second time following a previous alert in 2023. The alert that came with a message was sent to all mobile phones connected to a 4G or 5G network and caused phones to vibrate and emit a siren that lasted for 10 seconds, okay? Now, what's interesting about this alert is that it said severe alert on the top of it, okay? So this is not an alert for a thunderstorm, okay? This is an alert for a missile attack, a nuclear war situation, okay? It said severe alert on the top, and then it said this is a test, okay? So the UK testing their emergency alert system. And suddenly we're also hearing that Germany is telling its population to build up their emergency food supplies, which is absolutely insane. I'll read this to you. Germany prepares for crisis with essential food reserves. In light of potential crises such as natural disasters, wars, or epidemics, Germany is taking proactive measures to ensure food security for its population. The nation is establishing a comprehensive food reserve system aimed at mitigating food shortages during emergencies. The Federal Ministry of Agriculture is tasked with overseeing these reserves, specifically through the Federal Agency for Agriculture and Food. In a recent discussion, the Agriculture Minister emphasized the importance of expanding these reserves to include ready-to-eat meals such as canned ravioli and lentils. This initiative aims to ensure that the population can access at least one warm meal per day during a crisis. Currently, Germany's food reserves consist mainly of staples such as grains, rice, peas, lentils, and condensed milk. The objective is to provide an emergency food supply that can support the population for a limited duration, typically a few weeks, in case of an acute crisis. Food supplies are strategically stored at over 150 undisclosed locations across the country to prevent potential looting during emergencies. These facilities are primarily located on the outskirts of urban areas. The BLE regularly procures food items for storage, including significant quantities of rice and legumes, as well as wheat distributed across various federal states. Every 10 years, the stored food supplies are rotated and replaced with fresh stock. The previously stored items are sold off, ensuring that the reserves remain current and stable. Fortunately, the food reserves have yet to be utilized. Even during the COVID pandemic, when supermarket shelves were often bare, Germany did not experience a widespread food shortage. In addition to government provisions, citizens are encouraged to prepare their own emergency food supplies, which could be crucial in case of power outages and natural disasters. The government recommends individuals maintain a basic supply that includes 2 liters of water daily per person, alongside a selection of non-perishable food items such as grains, potatoes, pasta, and vegetables. Okay, so huge news coming in from Germany. They're preparing for probably a war with Russia, and that's why they're beefing up their food reserves. The Minister of Agriculture is telling their department that they have to expand their food reserves to include ready-to-eat meals, okay? Not just grains that you have to cook and process, but things that you can immediately eat, like canned foods, okay? And what's also interesting is that a couple of days ago, France told all their doctors to prepare for a mass casualty situation, okay? The French health minister told all the medical centers in France to be prepared for experiencing casualties of up to 150,000 by spring of 2026, okay? So we got France preparing their health system for mass casualties, the UK doing a nationwide emergency alert test. Now we have Germany expanding their food reserves, okay? So something is definitely brewing. And the Iranian supreme leader said yesterday that we recommend the provision and storage of essential supplies due to unforeseeable risks. Okay, so he's telling Iranian people to store essential supplies because of a potential war with Israel or the U.S. again. And yesterday we heard reports that there were explosions in multiple cities in Iran, specifically in western Tehran, Islamshar, Karaj City, and Isfahan. There were multiple explosions heard, and also fighter jets were heard flying over these areas. So I don't know what the deal was with that. I don't know if the Israeli military conducted strikes with their stealth fighters or if this was some kind of a drill by the Iranian military, but the Iranian supreme leader is telling his population to have essential supplies for some reason. And there was a large terror attack in Jerusalem earlier today. 20 people were shot. We're hearing as many as 5 people confirmed killed so far. 2 armed Israeli civilians neutralized the shooters. So that's just another real-world example of how armed citizens can stop crime, okay? And we're hearing that another drone crashed in eastern Poland last night. So this would be the 4th drone that crashed into Poland, Russian drone, in the last week, okay, since Labor Day. Absolutely insane. And an EU delegation will travel to Washington this week to coordinate with U.S. officials on the new sanctions package against Russia. So Trump is considering placing another round of sanctions. He may announce those as soon as today. And the EU is exploring new sanctions on about half a dozen Russian banks and energy companies. The package could also see the EU target Russia's payment and credit card systems, crypto exchanges, as well as further restrictions on the country's oil trade. The EU is considering tighter sanctions on major Russian oil companies and weighing export bans on more goods and chemicals used by Moscow's military industry and trade restrictions on foreign firms that supply those items. And yesterday, Russian drones were able to break through the strongest zone of Ukraine's air defense, the area around the cabinet of ministers, next to the parliament and Zelensky's residence. So here we have a picture of this cabinet ministers building. So this is where the Ukrainian president's cabinet has their offices. Okay, all the different ministers, defense minister, agriculture, interior, energy, etc. This is their building. It's right next to Zelensky's office or his presidential palace, and then next to the Ukrainian parliament building. So Russia actually hit that with drones last night for the first time ever since the war started. And also for the first time ever, Russia launched over 800 drones at Ukraine. That's the largest number of drones ever launched against a country in combat in human history so far. Russia launching 805 drones at Ukraine last night. They also launched a few Iskander ballistic missiles as well. And Ukraine has raised their alert level to red for the possibility of a big ballistic missile attack in the next 48 hours. So we're hearing potentially that Russia could launch the Oreshnik again at Ukraine. And the former president of Russia and the current head of Russia's Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, said that Finland is preparing a bridgehead for an attack on Russia. Wow. So Medvedev wearing his tinfoil hat saying Finland is preparing a bridgehead to attack Russia. Absolutely insane. Unless it's a bridgehead for NATO troops, then I could understand. But I don't think Finland is interested in attacking Russia. And according to Trump's special envoy, Keith Kellogg, he's the representative for the U.S. on Russia and Ukraine. He said that events in Ukraine may get out of control. Putin is escalating the war. He said on the strikes last night that it's not a signal that Russia wants to end the war diplomatically. Okay? So Keith Kellogg saying that events in Ukraine may get out of control. Putin is escalating the war. And if you remember, Keith Kellogg was very conservative in his approach towards Ukraine early on. He was trying to get Ukraine to make some kind of a peace deal with Russia. He was helping the Trump administration do that. Now a complete 180. And the British Prime Minister said that yesterday's strikes on Ukraine are proof that Putin does not want peace. There were also massive power outages in the capital region of Ukraine. Apparently, a massive strike on the Tripilska thermal power plant in the Kyiv region. That's a massive power plant, was taken down by Russian drones. And we do know that Russia is planning to escalate their attacks on Ukraine's infrastructure before winter comes, okay? And Ukrainian forces have carried out a massive attack near Moscow, specifically targeting the Ivanovo, Vladimir, and Moscow regions with drones. And we're also hearing that several fires are actively burning at the Ilsky oil refinery in Krasnodar Krai in southern Russia, following yet another drone attack by Ukraine targeting energy infrastructure in Russia. So another oil refinery on fire in Russia. And earlier yesterday, two Chinese Y-20A military transport aircraft appeared simultaneously at the Chekhovsky Airport in Moscow. These transport aircraft are capable of transporting heavy equipment and main battle tanks. So this is very concerning, guys. Chinese military cargo planes arriving in Moscow capable of transporting tanks, okay? So it looks like China and Russia are working together now in the European theater. And Estonia summoned the Russian embassy's representative after a Russian Mi-8 helicopter violated its airspace near Vandaloo Island yesterday, staying 4 minutes inside of Estonia's airspace without a flight plan, transponder, or radio contact. This marks Estonia's third airspace breach by Russia this year. So, guys, this should be like a huge red flag, okay? The third time Russian planes flew into Estonia's airspace. We're not talking about their exclusive economic zone. We're talking about their territorial airspace, guys. A Russian military helicopter flew into Estonia's territorial airspace without any transponder, radio contact, or flight plan for 4 minutes. And we're hearing that in 2019, a high-stakes commando mission with the SEAL Team 6 went awry outside of North Korea. Apparently, SEAL Team 6 tried to slip ashore onto North Korean territory for a nighttime mission to plant a surveillance device, but the troops were unexpectedly interrupted by a fisherman boat. Fearing that they had been discovered by North Korean security forces, they shot and killed everyone on the boat. So apparently these North Koreans were just unarmed civilians, but the SEALs thought that they were security forces. So this was during the first Trump presidency. It just shows you that a lot of things happen behind the scenes. Okay, that was 6 years ago, and we're just hearing about it now. Okay. And a senior Israeli official said today that the Houthis should expect a harsh and unprecedented response from Israel of an unusual scale. And this is because the Houthis again launched drones at Israel yesterday. Apparently 3 were shot down and 1 struck the Ramon International Airport in Eilat in southern Israel, causing injuries and damage to one of the arrival terminals. Okay, so Israel is pissed off. And several undersea cables in the Red Sea were cut on Saturday, causing widespread internet disruptions across the Middle East and parts of Asia, including the United Arab Emirates. The cause of the incident was not immediately clear, according to the Associated Press. And then after the cables were cut, the U.S. Navy was monitoring the Red Sea with a P-8 Poseidon and 2 unmanned surface vessel reconnaissance drone boats. Okay, so very, very strange situation there in the Red Sea. Probably the Houthis cut those cables. Okay. And the U.S. job market suggests the economy is currently in a recession. The U.S. economy has shed 142,200 jobs over the last 4 months, excluding the healthcare sector, the highest reading since the 2020 COVID crisis. In the past, such a drop has usually happened at the onset of a recession. Okay, so not good. Losing the most jobs since 2020 when the pandemic started. And what you're looking at here is the flight path of a British reconnaissance plane doing some kind of a search grid over the Gotland Island in the Baltic Sea. It's part of Swedish territory, and it was doing this very intense search grid here all over the island. And we know that, I think it was 2 weeks ago, some cables were cut yet again to this island. So the Russians have always had their eye on this island. And the Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz posted this powerful statement on Twitter. He said, "Today, a powerful hurricane will strike the skies of Gaza City, and the roofs of the terror towers will. This is a final warning to the murderers and rapists of Hamas in Gaza and in luxury hotels abroad. Release the hostages and lay down your weapons, or Gaza will be destroyed and you will be annihilated." The IDF continues as planned and is preparing to expand the maneuver to decisively defeat Gaza. I don't know why he wrote defeat Gaza. I think he meant defeat Hamas. But looks like Israel is going to be expanding their operations in Gaza. And from what we're hearing is that Israel is going to establish some kind of a security zone there and essentially incorporate Gaza into Israeli territory. Same thing with the West Bank. And here you can see all of the different recessions over the last 20 years. You can see the 2001 brief recession after 9/11. There was a little dip there. Then you can see in 2008 to like 2010, 11-ish, we had that big recession from the housing market collapse. And then here you can see during COVID, a huge crisis. And then now we're on our way down again. Okay, so very, very concerning. And General Motors, GM, is cutting output at one of its main electric vehicle factories, the latest automaker to pull back on EVs as U.S. President Donald Trump's administration yanks federal support for green cars. GM will stop production of 2 electric Cadillac SUVs at its assembly plant in Spring Hill, Tennessee during the month of December, according to a person familiar with the matter and communications to GM employees viewed by Reuters. Wow. And the founder of American private military contractor Blackwater, Eric Prince, is looking at buying into Ukrainian drone manufacturing companies. Very interesting. So he wants those Ukrainian drones. He wants their technology first and foremost. And the editor-in-chief of Russia Today, Margarita Simonian, says she was diagnosed with a serious illness and faces surgery. So she's the husband of the owner of RT, okay, and a very famous Kremlin propagandist. I don't know if she has cancer or something. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I'll probably be back later on tonight with more breaking news. I'll do a live update probably around 2300 Eastern Time. That's 11 p.m. Eastern Time, somewhere around there. So stay tuned for that. And until the next time, take care. God bless. And don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.